Welcome to our African Voice, the African Connect news channel, where truth meets tradition and real stories rise. We are a proud community of everyday people living right here on the continent, bringing you news, culture, and commentary that reflect Africa as we see it, live it, and love it. Disclaimer: this video is for educational and informational purposes only. We do not promote violence, hate speech, or discrimination of any kind. Our goal is to inform, uplift, and share African news from an African perspective. Today, we turn our focus to a tense and highly scrutinized interview between U.S. AFRICOM Commander, General Langley, and an African journalist who didn't hold back. She asked the questions millions across the continent are wondering: can Africa trust the United States? This interview came just weeks after General Langley publicly praised Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, a man who demanded an apology from the U.S. military chief for false accusations and disrespectful treatment of his government. But while some may see this as a sign of renewed diplomacy, many Africans are not convinced. The general's responses, although diplomatic on the surface, fell flat for much of the African audience. His words did little to address deep-rooted mistrust stemming from America's long history of political interference, resource extraction, and lack of true partnership on the continent. And now, with the U.S. taking increased interest in Burkina Faso's gold reserves and its rising young leader, many fear this is just another strategic move to gain access, not build trust. The timing is also sensitive, as the U.S. is grappling with internal crises, especially around immigration policies that disproportionately impact Africans and black migrants. These contradictions have not gone unnoticed. Now, let's take a look at the interview, and pay close attention to both the journalist's courage and the general's answers.
They make their decisions how they use their resources. They make their decisions who their resources go to for military support. That's their sovereign right. But my cautionary tale was just from a military perspective. That was a Senate Armed Services Committee asking me a direct question. Burkina Faso, a lot of great things going on to progress them forward. Okay.
Ask about one of the countries that has taken its own autonomy, and that's Burkina Faso. Yeah. Your remarks recently at the Senate seem to suggest that he's diverting, General Traoré, is diverting its 4 billion gold reserves to sustain his military rule rather than for public welfare. These remarks sparked widespread condemnation across the continent. What did you mean by that statement?
Let me speak to Burkina Faso's sovereignty. They maintain their sovereignty. They make their decisions how they use their resources. They make their decisions who their resources go to for military support. That's their sovereign right. But my cautionary tale was just from a military perspective. That was a Senate Armed Services Committee asking me a direct question. Burkina Faso, a lot of great things going on to progress them forward, okay? But then when you look at the military part of it, knowing that that's the epicenter of global terrorism, it was my time to illuminate that this is probably their weakest point, and there needs to be sufficient resources going towards for the whole fight of terrorism in that country. They make their decisions, though. That's their sovereignty, their sovereign right to make their decisions, what is appropriate, what's not. But I wanted to illuminate that it's going in the wrong direction now. ISIS is getting stronger. JNIM is getting stronger. Al-Qaeda in the lands of the Maghreb is getting stronger in that country.
And do you think it's getting stronger after General Traoré took over?
It has. Just look at the numbers of attacks. It really has, since 2022. I've been tracking this since I took command. But the decisions is their own. They're looking for other ways to be able to, they're still on warfighting footing, but it's just going to take more resources.
So you stand by that statement? Because there's been pressure on you to walk those statements back.
That's my statement. That's my assessment. That is getting worse. More needs to be done for not just local, but whole of country, because of these violent extremist organizations are seeking revenue, they're seeking resources, they're seeking recruiting from the Burkinabe people, and they're seeking refuge within their country. That threatens their sovereignty.
And that threatens America's interest?
Say again?
Does that then threaten America's interests?
Yes, thank you for asking that. Because especially ISIS, and of course in East Africa is inextricably linked all the way to ISIS West Africa, ISIS Sahel, and there's going to be probably a move afoot for them to move and seek refuge within the line. So we have shared objectives, and we offer to work together with the Burkinabe government and border countries. Mali, Niger, coastal West Africa countries, collective, because here's what these organizations do. Here's what these terrorist organizations do. They seek refuge in the seams or the borders of these countries and lets them thrive and grow and lets them recruit, gain resources to carry on their illicit and nefarious activities against the populations of those people.
And what would America, perhaps AFRICOM, be prepared to do? Would you be considering an ouster like we saw with Muammar Gaddafi in Libya? Because there's still many Africans who are yet to recover from that. If this is a bigger threat, as you say, in Burkina Faso, what is AFRICOM prepared to do about it?
We do indications and warnings. There's a number of activities that we do, and we'll just go ahead and mention building institutional capacity. There's not going to be U.S. boots on the ground. Very, very small for exchange of ideas and training, exercises. Over time, that builds institutional capacity and capability in these armies. There, AFRICOM, we are working towards a burden sharing and a burden shift for their independent operations. That's our goal. We have the shared objectives because these same terrorist groups can threaten our homeland. So we're in concert. I was just in African Lion over in Morocco, and a number of countries working together to be able to
Burkina Faso invited here today for this conference?
Yes. Yes, they were invited to African Lion in Morocco. Yeah. Yes, like I said, we're moving forward.
Okay.
We're moving forward because we have that shared goal of defeating terrorism.
All right. Speaking of that, because the reaction out of the statements that you made about Burkina Faso were several African leaders feeling you are speaking on sovereignty issues that America shouldn't be. And as a result, there are those who see the role of AFRICOM as less of a partner in, the war against, shared threats, as you mentioned, and more of a protector of Western or American economic interests that allows access to Africa's vast mineral resources, and as more of a paternalistic relationship than one of respect amongst peers. What would you respond to that? I
respond that there's others on the globe that do that. There's others on the globe that do that. I'm going to even bring it up. We should have even already know, okay? But I'm going to even bring that up.
Okay.
We respect the sovereignty. We respect their decisions. We respect their decisions of who they choose as a security partner. And then we measure the common denominator that's keeping these countries across the Sahel from progressing forward. In 2050, the largest workforce on the globe is going to come out of the continent of Africa. The youth need hope. They need peace and stability so they can hit their potentials. That's a long-range goal of AFRICOM as we look to help these countries set those conditions for stability and security so prosperity can be presented to all the populations and the youth. Pan-Africanism is real and it's strong, and there's an opportunity to come up on the global stage, and this continent can do it. That's what we really envision.
So you're not concerned about China and Russia expanding their military and economic influence across the...
You just heard it for yourself. The questions were direct. The answers carefully worded, but largely unsatisfying for millions watching across Africa and the diaspora. General Langley may say the U.S. is seeking stronger partnerships on the continent, but history has shown us how these so-called partnerships often come with conditions that benefit foreign powers far more than African people. Is this renewed attention on Burkina Faso really about peace and diplomacy? Or is it about gaining access to gold, resources, and influence over rising African leadership? As African and African Americans and members of the global African family, we must stay alert, informed, and involved. This is a critical moment where the continent's sovereignty and self-determination are being tested again. Stay tuned to the African Connect news channel as we continue to bring you stories that matter, told through the voices of those who live them.
Thank you for watching the African Connect news channel. Subscribe to the channel for more uncensored African news, history, and truth. Like this video and share it, because Africa's story must be told by us.